Adani Apwao. Ya kana se wantia, ye jao, eheni ya beto. Mampam, oso wantia, so dogo vinwa bemu. Mampam, oso wantia, nani ya muka nyina guna swati, mube swara Mampam, oso wantia, mube swara Mampam, also until once upon a time, animal called Mampam. Any king where them go bring him. Mampam said that king know the force. Tiger was a king. Mampam said he know the force. Elephant come. Mampam, some better than you. The peaceful creature panda. Mampam said I want to know the force. Lion became a king. Mampam said I want be the worst ever. Monsomeria. Mampam now become a king. All the crawling animals, everybody become minister. Ya ton ya color TV. Ya dibia so sort of black and white. Oh my equality. Oh my titi apan sam kura. Oh my anima Chinese yo. Oh my so. Paso auntie. So dogo binwa dem. Oso yo. Nanye muka nye guna swati. Mube swara Mampam, oso auntie. Mube swara Mampam, oso yo. Mampam wetete se. Omani su onedi ojineni. Na ojaru webiemu no just wajana na bia so webiemu. Mampam wa bobosia chanu yini bia watuna kunya no so pen. Ye umuni odeye amim sam ni akasi sam kwa. Ya to ayanto yet your maimu tisa mafrafo areho sakio tujini oje tuono na odi tuono yeah. So dogo binwa bemu na mampam no so ntie no so dogo binwa bemu mube swara Mampam, oso ntie. Babylon suwantene ho, ehone taya yeti nisuono. Emra ye kaizayon, sambra bejiyane. No hosu continue so, ehone diense mko sensenia. Nebede ya 20 jejum, ananafo asase so.
Today's Ghana News TV is 2 years old, and we will continue to give you the very best. Within our 2-year period, we have introduced our newspaper, the Evening Tribune. Tribune, when it comes, tribulation, you should expect it. It comes with all the hardcore news items, and we report it as it is, as you see it, and as you hear it. So do make a date with us. It comes out every Wednesday, so Thursday morning is right up there. Get a copy of it and get more informed. Do get in touch with us, and we have any article, we will do the publication for you.
I'm Ernesto Yeboah. Join me on TodayGhanaNews TV for news updates on every Friday at 18 hours GMT. News updates are sponsored by Top Connect. Send money everywhere, no fees. You can follow us on all social media platforms at Today Ghana News TV.
Hello, welcome to another edition of MyView show live on Today Ghana News TV, which is live on all your favorite social media networks, Facebook, WhatsApp, Twitch, Twitter, and whichever network that you prefer. And we are there as as Today Ghana News. If you're also listening to us in Ghana and actually Himai, you are on High FM 93.7 FM. We're also live on Sakina Information Center in Tatali in Northern Ghana. I am your host for today, Albert Alan Dachie. If you have been a regular viewer of our show, you'd have noticed that over the past couple of months, we have tried to tailor our discussions towards getting various sections or various dimensions or various populations of society to get actively involved in the things that matter to them, to get actively involved in decision making and not to be passive people who allow things to go that they do not have influence over. And it will appear that over the period, for all these discussions that we have been having, we have been staring down to a crescendo, which is a day like today, where we are going to delve into topics that would deal with that would try to explore what happens when people do not get actively involved and when the wrong people get involved and how it can have consequences on the lives of people. And today, we have the honor of hosting a very, if you like, active and radical young activist who is fighting exactly for this cause, who have dedicated his youthful energy to ensuring that he does not leave things to chance, but rather he would motivate, he would be the voice of the voiceless, and he will stand up and fight against corruption. We are talking about a Pan-Africanist, the co-founder of Economic Fighters League. He likes to also describe himself as an Nkrumahist, and also the author of the Students' Manifesto. Our host for today is in the person of Mr. Ernesto Yeboah. Welcome to the show, Mr. Yeboah.
Thank you very much, Albert. It's a pleasure to be here. And greetings to you and your wonderful viewers.
Yes, it's a pleasure to have you, and it's a privilege to host you on our network. Here, we try to serve the best dinner there is in the evening. So we're going to have a full course, right? We are going to start with an appetizer, then we give you the main course, and then we end up with dessert. So if you are ready, prepare yourself for dinner. And we start with appetizer. Mr. Yeboah, is it fair to call or describe you as a failed partisan politician since you were expelled from your political party, the CPP?
Well, thank you very much once again, Albert. I doubt what your compass, is in this regard, especially as the question of what is failure and what is success comes into question, because anybody who has followed my works and my politics would be the last person to put failure to it. Because in any case, what we are doing is we are charting, uncharted courses. We are on the path of history, and we have more often than not been absorbed, even within a short lifespan. And so I doubt whether you are using the right lenses and the right compass in whoever is seeking to know whether I'm a failed partisan politician or not. Because in any case, what is politics? Politics is, about bread and butter. It's about livelihoods. It's about existing and charting a course. And so, question is if I have abandoned the course. That is when one can say that Ernesto Yeboah has failed. And if that has not been the case, then I don't really see where it lies. Within the Convention People's Party, what were we championing? Has it changed? And so wherever we find ourselves, be it in the church, in the mosque, at the shrine, everywhere we'll continue to champion, that cause. And that's where it is.
Wonderful, wonderful. I can say this on first-hand knowledge that I have been part of your demonstrations, but you never knew. When in University of Ghana, when you were part of the team that led probably the largest demonstration, student demonstration that we have seen in recent history to advocate for accommodation. I was part of that demonstration, and I know that you are a relentless fighter in the things that you believe in. Yeah. Now talking about politics, of course. You have since channeled your energy still into fighting for some other things. In your introduction, I introduced you as the leader and probably the founder, I guess, of an organization, Economic Fighters League, I believe. What's this organization about, and what does the organization seek to do?
Well, Anand, the organization, as you rightly mentioned, is the Economic Fighters League. Every generation, like Franz Fanon said, has an assigned course or duty. And so they either take that course or they live it. Our forefathers like Kwame Nkrumah and co. Fought for political independence. And the reason why they fought for political independence was because they wanted to obtain economic independence. And so once that phase of the decolonization fight was done, it was now our turn to, as it were, demand what is rightfully ours, which is economic democracy or economic freedom. And so the Economic Fighters League exists principally to continue with that trajectory or with that fight for our human existence and for what rightfully belongs to us, and yet under the muzzled control of foreign powers.
Yes. Well, if that is the case, and most of your fight is channeled towards liberating, if you like, Africa from the shackles of economic, if you like, colonization or economic bondage. One would have thought that this time, in particular, in your country, would have been the best time for your organization to have been out there, because your country is going through probably the worst time in its history economically. But curiously, I seem to have observed that your organization, you have not been at the forefront. Is there a reason why the Economic Fighters League is not as vociferous as it used to be in recent times?
Well, when you say vociferous, in what context? When you say at the forefront, in what context? If you are measuring it within the context of the neo-colonial media space, traditional media, then one can understand where you are coming from. Because the Economic Fighters League is not all about being in the traditional media spaces. It's about being at places where people are uncomfortable to be. It's about being with people who the cameras and microphones of mainstream never want to identify or associate with, and would only showcase them in order to make a point about statistics or to show some variegated variety on their platforms and all of that. And so those areas usually don't get the attention of traditional media. And so when you say we are not at the forefront, and I suspect that's the lenses you are using. Because, I mean, let's do what do you call a content analysis of media coverage of the Economic Fighters League. And you'll find that the Economic Fighters League receives coverage in traditional media spaces only when it appears to be on a course of ridicule or is being punished. Elements in there are being punished, and therefore traditional media wants the rest of the population to see what is being done to people who resist or fight the status quo. I mean, talk about the drop that chamber. This was a protest. I mean, we led. Why do you think traditional media covered it? They covered it because the police officers and servants of the status quo were on my neck, holding me tight to the ground and showing me basically where power lies. Which is why traditional media felt that, yes, let us show this to the people of Ghana to demonstrate what will befall them if any of them follow in this path. And then the outrage from the bourgeois elements in society who also wanted to discourage it and all of that. I can go on and on and on in many examples, and you find that is how the Economic Fighters League have been presented, within those traditional spaces. But it's not when we are offering solidarity or social support to victims of mudslide in Sierra Leone. It is not when we are in the trenches in places that have been to the poor. It's never been about
I think
we don't need any discussion on this. Drop that chamber. Drop that chamber. Drop that chamber. Drop that chamber. Drop that. I will say what has to be heard. I will speak truth to power. Nobody will restrain me from speaking truth to power. I will say what I have to say. Drop that chamber. Drop that chamber. If there are no men in this country, I will stand up and say it. Drop that chamber. We don't carry arms. We are not here to beat because you lack the courage to tell them in the face that drop that chamber. Only the notification of Parliament as a citizen of the.
If you are just joining us, you are listening or watching us live on Today Ghana News TV. We are live on all your social media networks. We are live on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter, on Twitch, and on all other social media networks as Today Ghana News TV. And you are watching another exciting edition of MyView show. If you are also listening to us from Northern Region, you are listening to us on Sakina Information Center, and also we are also live on Hen FM in Achimhimai in the Eastern Region. And today we are having a discussion about the turmoil in West Africa, and we are trying to look at it from the perspective of the warning, whether this is a warning that the youth have been sending to the politicians for a long time, which have been ignored. And there is no better person to engage us with this discussion or in this discussion than Ernesto Yeboah, who is the leader and founder of the Economic Fighters League, which is a Pan-African organization that is dedicated to fighting against injustice and corruption all over Africa. And just before we had the short interruption in our network, our guest was telling us about even the frustrations that they go through, where they seem to be stifled by the mainstream media that seem to prevent them from coming out in a way that they should. But he said he's not relenting and that the fight is still on. If we manage to get our guest back online, we are then going to delve further into the discussions surrounding the turmoil in the West African sub-region. If you are familiar with the political terrain in West Africa, you would have noticed that in recent times, the sub-region has been the topic or subject of a lot of unrest, from what is happening in northern Nigeria, which has happened for close to a decade, to what is happening in Mali, what is happening in Niger, what is happening in Burkina Faso, and I think Guinea, if I'm not mistaken. So clearly, this is a volatile environment that is littered with a lot of instability. In some places, it is a situation of armed militants taking over. In some situations, it is a situation of coup d'etats that I think that are happening. But what are the underlying causes of all of this? Is there something, I mean, within the DNA of West Africa that seem to be the problem, that seem to be the cause of this? Is it something that has to do with leadership? Is it something that has to do with state failure? What are the issues that are, resulting in situations like that? We will try to get our guest back online, but before we, while we try to do that, let's get some messages from our viewers and audience. Mr. Producer, if you can pull me a few.
I'm not. Now you want to arrest us. You want to arrest us just because you don't like what we are saying. This is a fake democracy, and we are not afraid to say it. Young people of this country, rise up. Young people of this country, this is your nation, rise up. Our leaders are fooling, tell them. We are not afraid of anybody. You can kick me, beat me, kill me, but you will not stop me from speaking. I will say what has to be heard. I will speak truth to power. Nobody will restrain me from speaking truth to power. I will say what I have to say. Drop that chamber. Drop that chamber. If there are no men in this country, I will stand up and say it. Drop that chamber. Drop that chamber. This is simply what we do.
Let's go.
Let's go. Be civil.
Let's go.
Let's go. What about that?
Let's go.
What about that wrong? What about that wrong? For speaking out, I've not hit any single person. Look how they are treating me. Just saying they should drop the chamber. Yes, look at my dress. Everything of mine is torn. My spectacle broken. My shirt is torn down here.
But why would you want to do that in the chamber itself?
Because that's the law making carry. That decision you take.
Welcome back to the show. For those of you who are joining us on YouTube and all the visual networks, you would have seen the struggles that people have to go through, the extent to which they put their lives on the line to fight injustice. I think probably the interruption happened at the right time because we had just finished serving you appetizer. And we're moving right to the full course, the main course. And I mean, let me give you the chance. You give us your brief impression when you look at the political situation in West Africa. How would you describe it?
Well, Albert, I think that first of all, it's important to understand that politics happens in many ways and in many forms. And some of what, the contemporary world may be used to is the type that Ghana practices. We call it a democracy and all of that. People choose how they want to engage in the politics. And in this instance, and with everything that is happening within the West African region, what we can see is that the army are also engaging in the politics of the region in a different way. They are coming on the barrel of the gun. And so within intellectual spaces, if you read people like Samuel DiCarlo and the rest, they talk about more or less like a cascading effect of military regimes, that when they happen within one geopolitical space, they also have the tendency to manifest in other spaces. They have a contagion effect, for that matter. And so what I see within the West African region is a manifestation of this contagion that we are beginning to see. And no two ways about that. And let's not kid ourselves. They are politicians. Yes, they are in the military uniform, coming on the barrel of the gun, but they are politicians. And so what do politicians do? Politicians have to identify and align with the popular sentiments of the people. And so these military, officers are no fools. They see the gap or lacuna created by so-called democratic regimes, the lack of accountability, the powerlessness, of the people within those, so-called democratic spaces, the blatant exploitation of their resources, the meaninglessness of the pursuit of, Western democracy and all of that. And so they are taking advantage of that lacuna, that has been created. And that's precisely what is happening. This has left many especially within Ghana, asking what the results of the 30 years of so-called democratic rule has been, and whether it's worth it. I mean, in the light of the Cecilia Dapas stashing millions in their home. I mean, at the time when, I mean, we are suffering the West, I mean, in terms of our currency fluctuations and economic situations and all of that. So, I mean, that for me explains my understanding of what is happening within the sub-region and the potential for it to, as it were, manifest in its cascading effects, as the likes of Samuel Dekano have pointed out.
Yes, Mr. Yeboah. I came across an article in the media. I think this was about a year ago, which reported you as saying that let me try and get what the exact wording that was attributed to you. That while your organization is pursuing advocacy such as capacity building towards economic empowerment, recent interactions with local youth in various locations across Ghana has revealed that the youth has lost patience with their leaders and seek to be armed so as to bring about change. This was about a year ago. What gives you what gave you that impression? How did you probably see this ahead of time, that moving forward, the youth, that militarization was going to occur, and especially in West Africa, and you seem to be attributing, as you are saying, that the youth want to. How did you notice this?
It's a result of engaging with the people. And you see, when we engage with the people, they tell us things. And so we are not of our own. We are simply servants. And so that was the message, I mean, in there. Everywhere, I mean, we've been. Every phone call that, I mean, we've received, and our interactions and all of that, there is that meaninglessness that people feel. There are many who feel powerless and have given up, that after all, even if we say it, nothing will happen. So why should I waste my time and say it? When a population gets to that brink, you know that the next thing that might follow is an explosion. And so all throughout West Africa, I mean, anybody who has done any tour of the West African region would know that the conditions in Ghana are not different from the conditions in Togo, are not different from the conditions in Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger and the rest. And so these are some of the, how do you call it, the signs that tell us that military adventurers and the people themselves seeking to, as it were, reduce the space of power stretch between themselves and, I mean, so-called leaders, may then want to resort to arming themselves. There are places we've gotten to and they tell us that, look, cut the long talk and give us arms. I mean, in such circumstances, what do you do? You see, so, I mean, the warning signs are there. And
when you talk about meaninglessness, if I'm getting it right.
Yeah.
Are you talking about the gap, widening economic gap between the ruled and the rulers? Is that what you are referring to?
That, in addition to the fact that, I mean, what is this whole thing about democracy we've been trumpeting from time to time? Oh, democracy, you hear Nanado democracy, you hear John Mahama democracy, Kofi Annan everybody democracy, IMF democracy, and things like that. And that was the basis on which the 1992 Constitution gained some acceptance within our space. It was promising democracy, and on the back of that democracy was economic freedom. 30 years down the line, economic freedom has eluded the people, leaving them to ask, is this democracy? With the likes of Cecilia Dapa, with billions in their homes, and the rest of us hungry and penniless. If this is democracy, then we want, I mean, dictatorship. So it's that meaninglessness that is, I mean, creating the appetite for other forms of government. Now, it's very unintellectual and quite blunt when people assume that, don't talk about democracy and things like that. I mean, when people talk like that, I mean, I first of all look at the class that they belong to, the social class that they belong to. And you'd find that many of those who talk like that are people who feel, I mean, they are more likely to benefit from this lopsided system that we have of a democracy. And so that's the spirit with which they engage in some of these. Otherwise, I mean, we can look at the likes of Thomas Sankara, who was a military leader, took power by force, and took the people out of, poverty. You could see that this was a guy with a mission. This was a country that was heading for progress. And nobody can dispute, that under, Thomas Sankara. And he was a military leader. And so, to the extent that there is at least one exception, it annuls all arguments, made against, military regimes. It may take time to identify where the military power or authority stands. As to whether they are there for themselves or they are there for the people. But to throw that blanket statement that we cannot tolerate military regimes, it's also unacademic.
Yes, but
Muammar Gaddafi.
Yes, but when you cite the example of how do you call that, of maybe somebody like Sankara or Muammar al-Gaddafi, people also cite the example of a country like Myanmar, for instance, or those days called the former Burma, that has this intricate connection with military. And they would also point you to tell you that look, that doesn't work it doesn't work that way, and that for anybody to think that have this idea of we having benevolent dictators wouldn't wash, because where there are no checks and absolute power is loaded on people who have no checks over them, that the outcome would usually not be good. Wouldn't you agree that to the extent that we have countries that have tried this and not also succeeded, that even though democracy might not be the best, but it is a workable system that we should embrace?
What checks do we have on another? Is this a democracy? Is this our idea of a democracy? And so the point is, if we are going to argue imperfections, then let us locate it within its right context. That human beings are imperfect anyway, and so are our systems. And so there is no exception between democracy and autocracy, military rule or civilian rule. So we can argue within that space. But to pretend that democracy is perfect and offers some viable alternative compared with, how do you call it, that of military regimes is also dishonest of the conversation. So if we want to have a conversation, let's do it on a level playing field in honesty and sincerity. I mean, how many Ghanaians are excited by what we are seeing? We had an auditor general who was fighting for the people of Ghana, asking the right questions and demanding, answers as that. Dome level? What happened to dome level? Is this what we call democracy? So we have to come full scale if we want to engage in some of these things, and it has to be an honest engagement.
Yeah, but okay. Talking about honest engagements and honest conversations, I like to go with facts and figures, right? Because they are as honest as we can get. And one might want to challenge, this hypothesis that, once there's a seeming gap between the ruled and the rulers, the outcome probably would be militarization or what have you. And I would like to share a bit of information with you. If you look at the world's top 5 countries, that poorest countries, there's no West African country there. We have South Sudan, you have Burundi, you have Central African Republic, you have Somalia, you have DR Congo. There's no West Africa there. If you look at the countries with the highest unemployment in the world, and once again, if I check the top 5, Djibouti, South Africa, Libya, Eswatini, Congo Republic, no West Africa there. But these countries are peaceful and life is going on. So what is peculiar about the West African case, such that even though the figures don't seem to lump them up in a very terrible economic situation, the outcome is violence and militarization. Once again, if you are just joining us, this is another show of MyView. MyView show live on Today Ghana TV. We are also live on Sakina Information Center in Tatali. We are live in Hin FM 93.7 in Achimhima in the Eastern region. And we are live on all your social media networks, live on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Twitch, and so on. Let's take some comments from our viewers, and then we go on. We have a comment from Robert Kimpe. Thank you very much, Robert Kimpe, for joining us again. Comrade Yeboah is a pillar in Ghana politics and fighter. We credit him for the drop of Parliament chamber. Yes, that is true. And as you can see from the video, you saw what he went through. Patience Daku, one of our regular viewers, Patience Daku says, great show. It's amazing watching this great man on our favorite TV channel in Ghana. Yes, it's really a wonderful conversation with Ernesto, and hopefully he joins us very soon. We have another comment from Mavis Boateng. Mavis Boateng says, I'm very proud of you, Ernesto Yeboah. God bless you for your advocacy for the youth, watching you on YouTube from Lisbon, Portugal. Thank you very much for doing the watching and the listening. We have another message from Ras Bamba. Ras Bamba says that thank you. I think that is a CIC, that's a Commander-in-Chief, Ernesto Yeboah. I suppose you are a member of Economic Fighters League. We have, Nanata Frem says, wow, long time we hear from this amazing young man. Kudos Today Ghana News TV, watching from Tatali, Northern Ghana, live on Sakina Information Center. And we send our warm regards to all our listeners in Sakina Information Center in Tatali. We have another comment from Robert Kimpe, and Robert Kimpe says he's watching us live from Paris, France. Robert Kimpe, hope Paris is well and good. We have another comment from NDC Diaspora Union, and NDC Diaspora Union says, wonderful show, greetings from Amsterdam, Holland. Yes, greetings to all the people in Holland who are joining us today for their best evening meal. We also have a comment from Conte Nana. Conte Nana says he's watching us from Warsaw, Poland, and he says, Ernesto Yeboah, thank you for saving Ghana from a needless parliamentary chamber. You have saved Ghana. You have served Ghana very well, even at your young age. Yes, of course. If you see judging by the cost of cost of constructions we have in Ghana, only God knows how much would have been sunk into this when we have a well-functioning chamber still serving our purpose. We have another comment from Osei Superior. And Osei Superior says, if you have 10 of your kind in Ghana and Africa, our country will have been a better place for all of us, watching from Barcelona, Spain. Thank you very much, Osei Superior, for always doing the watching all the time. Then Asempahene Buachi says, I'm very impressed with his high level of intellectual submission. I will impress on him to be active in the media. And Asempahene, if you listened to Ernesto earlier, he talked about the challenges that they have in getting space in the traditional media, and the deliberate attempt to always paint them with a bad brush, and to keep them in the news only for the wrong reasons, or only when it is sensational. And this is one of the reasons why they seem not to be getting much audience. Ras Bamba, Ras Bamba comes in, he says he's watching from Italy. Thank you, CIC, I think that's Chief in Command, Ernesto Yeboah. You are one of the real revolutionary we have in both Africa and Ghana in general. Yes, Ernesto is really a relentless fighter, and who seeks to fight for economic justice and justice in general in society. And we have Vice Ghana. Vice Ghana says, Ghana will forever remember you for the drop of the chamber campaign. We are very proud of you, watching from Edukrum, Kwapim, Ghana. Yes, thank you very much for doing the watching. And of course, yes, Ghana really owe him a great deal of debt for his fight and for fighting for the interest of Ghanaians and in Africa. We do not have a lot of time left, so we would probably take one more question on the main course, and then we will not leave you hanging. We will serve you dessert as we say goodbye to you. So, Ernesto, with this situation that we have, and the situation that exists in Africa and West Africa, what do you think is the role of the youth if this situation is to be corrected?
Well, thank you very much, and I'm very sorry for the unkind nature of our internet services. But
you were making a point. That's a result of dysfunctional systems.
I mean, so, but then the point is, the youth have to be a little more interested in their own affairs, because all that is happening have serious repercussions. And at the moment, if you look at the posturing of our leaders, look at the Kufuado, look at ECOWAS, look at the AU, you would see that they are all singing the same tune. They all favor the idea of military intervention in Niger. Now, looking at them independently, you may think that, oh, this is just, something we can overlook as individual political posturings. But then look at EU, look at France, look at America, and you'll find that Kufuado, ECOWAS, AU are only dancing to the tune of the EU, America, and NATO in this regard. And so, what do we do as young people? One of the things that we have to do is to ensure that Kufuado is not led to instructing a military operation or sending forces from Ghana to be part of the ECOWAS mission to destabilize and hand Niger back to France. How do we ensure that this happens? The way to ensure that this happens is to be out there in the streets, is to make it a political issue, because it is a political issue, that we don't allow Kufuado to do that. Whose children should go and die that kind of a foolish death? And any soldier that goes there, and loses their life, has died a foolish death. Because in any case, the people of Niger have demonstrated overwhelmingly that the coup is a popular one. And to that extent, if we have any democratic, laurels in us, or we are democratic minded enough, we would know that power belongs to the people, and the voice of God is the voice of the people. So that's, for me, is something that young people in Ghana can do. This is the battle of our lifetime, that we are able to restrain and prevent our leaders from dancing to the tunes of Europe and America and people who do not stand, for our cause and our interest. I hope this will cascade in all the West African, countries like Nigeria. And the good news from Nigeria is that their senators have rejected a request to place Nigerian army in any such military operation. Because look, the weapons, whose weapons are they? So there are many questions that we ought to be asking ourselves. Whose war is this? And why are we going to die in somebody's war? Why is the Kufuado not going himself or sending his children? So we have to be resolute about this and cut across our differences and come together in a unified position in ensuring that this doesn't happen. So that would be my word of advice to young people and
Okay, all right.
anybody under the sound of my
I think that one of our viewers has said that if you are not finding space in the traditional media, that you should be very active on social media, which I know is something that you are already engaging. So just this Ghana, yes, I think probably that question has been answered. Ras Bamba says economic freedom is a must. Indeed, it is a must. And in summing up, in giving us, in giving you desserts, what is the rule? You have told us about what the youth can do, but you are already on a course. You have charted a course which you are fighting, and you have an organization behind your back. What's next for your organization? How are you planning to roll out whatever in the future, if you have plans for the future?
I didn't get you. Please come again. There was some interruption.
Oh, sorry. We wanted to know what's next for your organization. What should the good people of Ghana who have shown support in the cause, what can they expect from you moving forward?
Well, the Economic Fighters League is the people's organization, and so we would continue to be with the people and stand with them in these very hard and difficult times that our nation is going through. We have a wicked political establishment in place that is supervising the endless deaths and sorrows that the people of Ghana find themselves in. How much are they taking from the IMF World Bank? Just 3 billion. Are we saying that between Akufo-Addo and John Mahama, we cannot mobilize that 3 billion? Is that what they are saying? So we are clear in our minds who the enemies are. The enemies are our leaders. And if all of us can unite and take them out, it will be for our better. But so long as we remain divided in our skewed partisan holes, they will continue to rape us dry and ensure that at the end of the day, it is only them and their family and their friends that continue to benefit. And this democracy would mean nothing. It would simply be a waste of our time. One of the first things that we hope has to change is with the current constitution that we have. But that will not happen on its own. It would happen through the popular protest and massing up of the people from time to time. If we allow that in the hands of Osechi Mensah Bonsu or Gbagben, we should forget it. If we allow it in the hands of Akufo-Addo or Mahama, we should forget it. Because there is no way they are going to change that constitution, because this is the constitution that has given them everything and made them what they are right now. And so it is up to us to identify and to stand in unison in sweeping out this constitution and bringing in a truly democratic constitution that would order the resources of this country fairly and equitably. Without that united action from all of us, the Economic Fighters League would not be able to bring about the change that it seeks. And neither will the people see their hopes and dreams materialize in their lifetime. And so more than anything, what we need is our unity of purpose, unity of action. And so that's how I want to end my submission. We have to unite. It is a must.
Indeed, unity is necessary and is needed. Considering the fact that a few years ago, you were fighting about, Ford gift. And now the situation has escalated to millions of dollars stashed in the homes of politicians. It only seems to give the direction or the impression that what you have been fighting is not getting better and is getting worse by the day. And we must come together in unison to arrest this situation and reverse it, because Africans deserve better. On this note, we would like to say a very big thank you to our guest for today, Chief in Command. I suppose that's the meaning of CIC. Chief in Command, Ernesto Yeboah.
CIC, Commander in Chief.
Oh. Commander in Chief Ernesto Yeboah, who is a Pan-Africanist. He is the founding leader of the Economic Fighters League. He is also an Nkrumahist, and he is the author of the Student Manifesto. And this evening, we have been taking a look at the turmoil in the West African sub-region and trying to see whether the writing has always been on the wall, which have been ignored by the leaders of Africa, and which has eventually crept in on us and is having devastating effect in most parts of West Africa. And so we would say a very big thank you to our guests, and also thank you to all our viewers and our listeners for today. And to assure you that next week, we are going to be joining you again in your homes and wherever you are, whether it's at your workplace, with yet another exciting edition of MyView show, where we'll be having another interesting discussion. Please stay tuned, stay blessed, and see you next week. Thank you for doing the viewing.
The country where I come from, the truth is irony. Just like animal farm, justice mean inequity. So who go say the truth? Who go say the truth? Christian can say silence, Islamic leaders silence, kings and queens silence, traditional leaders silence. So who go say the truth? We are the focus of confusing call. Now by area, why no better? We are the focus of confusing call. One guy's out here, why no better?